background noise this morning is perfect. It's the sound of ingrates, of ingratitude, of people who are so blinded by ideology they can't see law and order and common sense in front of them.
My name is Jason Watson. I'm an active duty major in the United States Air Force. I, Jason Paul Watson, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter. The President of the United States orders military action against foreign countries, absent an emergency scenario where American interests are under imminent, dire threat, as was done with Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran. This, the President and Vice President must be impeached, convicted, and removed.
An Air Force major was just arrested on the steps of the Capitol after calling for Trump and Vice President Vance's impeachments, the video of which has swiftly gone viral, which I will show you in a second. But just looking at the image itself, it's extraordinary, right? You have a serving officer in uniform standing outside Congress saying the president has violated the Constitution, calling for his impeachment, then being taken away by Capitol Police. It's not exactly a healthy image that's going around as we approach America's 250th anniversary. And it lands even harder because the president, for one, has spent years presenting himself as the great defender of the military while repeatedly treating the military as a prop.
Now, as I see my two beautiful sons sitting there, I think I'm going to give one to myself, one to them, and we'll have a threesome, okay? I'll pick out one of the two. I'll give them the Congressional Medal of Honor for something, for their genius at hunting, and I'll get one for taking on Russia or something.
But also with the plethora of issues going on within military ranks, it's worth noting. According to reports, Major Jason Watson appeared at a Capitol press event calling for the impeachment of the president and the vice president. He was initially joined by Congressman Al Green, but after the congressman left, Capitol Police told Watson that he could not continue demonstrating on the Capitol steps without a member of Congress present. Police said public demonstrations on those steps are only allowed under specific conditions, including the presence of a member of Congress. After Watson refused to leave, he was then arrested.
The President and Vice President must be impeached, convicted, and removed.
Yes!
Framed his protest around the very nature of the Constitution, right? He said he had devoted his life to service. He said he had taken an oath to defend the Democratic Republic. And then he argued that the greatest threat was not foreign, but domestic. He accused Trump of ordering military action without the kind of imminent emergency that would justify bypassing Congress, which he has done time and time again. He named, just to mention a few, Venezuela, Cuba, and of course the Iran conflict, calling them a violation of Congress's war powers. And the thing is, this is not the first time that a serving military member has spoke out against the administration regarding their abuse of power. If you remember, after an Iranian attack on a US position in Kuwait, an attack that Pete Hegseth had downplayed as just one rare projectile slipping through, he called it a squirter actually, all as a means to suggest that the defenses were basically strong and that the incident was a rarity. According to injured soldiers who had lived through the attack itself, they told a very different story. One anonymous soldier had told CBS that, quote, painting a picture that one squeaked through was a falsehood.
Everything shook, and it's something like what you see in the movies. You know, everything, your ears are ringing. You know, there's dust and smoke everywhere.
This soldier was part of a crew of about 60 troops stationed at the military post in Kuwait hit by the strike. He says his unit's leadership ordered them there despite intelligence showing it was a potential drone target.
We moved closer to Iran, to a deeply unsafe area that was a known target.
So what was the reason that you were told for why you needed to be there?
I don't think there was a good reason ever articulated.
The attack killed 6 American soldiers and injured dozens more.
Were these deaths preventable?
In my opinion, absolutely yes.
The next day, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called the Iranian drone a squirter that got through the Army's air defenses.
It happened to hit a tactical operations center that was fortified, but these are powerful weapons.
What fortifications existed there?
I mean, I would put it in the none category from a drone defense capability.
None. There were no fortifications.
None.
And so when you look at this, also, it doesn't exude the idea that Hegseth and Trump would like everyone to believe that they have the full backing of the military. I mean, let's also remind ourselves of the chaotic military purge that has happened on their watch. CBS reported in April that Hegseth had fired more than a dozen senior military officers.
His dismissal, along with that of Chief of Chaplains Major General William Green Jr. and Commander of Army Transformation and Training Command General David Hodney, are just the latest in a string of abrupt firings that Hegseth has carried out inside the Pentagon since he took office. Hegseth has fired more than a dozen senior military officers over the last year. In fact, he's almost completely remade the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Just 2 officials remain from before President Trump took office. Marine Corps Commandant General Eric Smith and Chief of Space Operations General B. Chance Saltzman. Now, you might have noticed if you look at that photo, Hegseth's version of the Joint Chiefs, those are entirely white men, despite the fact that as of 2024, nearly 33% of active duty service members are of color, and nearly 18% are women. Hegseth made it quite clear that that type of representation in the top ranks does not matter to him.
The era of DEI is gone at the Defense Department, and we need the best and brightest. Physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. We're reviving the warrior ethos. We're eliminating the distractions and the debris. No more DEI.
2 of the first leaders Hegseth let go were former Joint Chiefs Chair General C.Q. Brown, the second black officer to hold that post, and Chief of Naval Operations Lisa Franchetti, the first woman to lead the U.S. Navy.
And The Guardian later reported that since Trump returned to office, Hegseth had fired or forcibly retired 24 generals and senior commanders. I mean, when that happens during an act of conflict, it sends a very clear message through the ranks that dissent will not be tolerated, it seems.
You know, the argument is that I, a couple years ago, worked alongside my colleagues to pass into law something called the Civilian Protection Center. This is something that's at the Department of Defense, at the Pentagon, something that has personnel who are focused on this effort of ensuring protection of civilians, of reducing the risks that we see unfold here. The problem, though, is Secretary Hegseth decided to gut this office last year, has dramatically reduced down the staff, not implementing the budget that is necessary. Again, this was a bipartisan piece of legislation passed into law that I helped draft. Because of this, you know, I worked at the National Security Council. I've been there for targeting packages for a president to approve. This fault lies directly on President Trump and Secretary Hegseth. They are clearly the ones that gave the orders in terms of how they should go about the risk analysis. And without this type of office, it shows just how much this administration has deprioritized the protection of civilians. And now we find ourselves facing one of the worst losses of life of civilians at the hands of Americans in decades.
The Guardian quoted retired Army Major General Paul Eaton, who warned that the senior leadership of the military had been substantially damaged as a result. He described an environment where people wonder whether they will be next if they say the wrong thing, which sends the message that Trump and Hegseth are trying to build a military leadership culture that prizes loyalty more than anything else. Loyalty to the president, of course, loyalty to the secretary, But as this protester was pointing out, the military also requires loyalty to the Constitution, loyalty to the truth, to Congress, which has constitutional authority over war.
My name is Jason Watson. I'm an active duty major in the United States Air Force. However, who I am is immaterial. In the grand scheme of things, I'm just a nobody. What matters far more than who I am is what I have to say and the price I'm willing to pay to say it. I, Jason Paul Watson, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter. So help me God. I first swore this oath over 20 years ago upon entering basic cadet training at the United States Air Force Academy in late June of 2005. When the President of the United States orders military action against foreign countries absent an emergency scenario where American interests are under imminent, dire threat, as was done with Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran, that's an unconstitutional usurpation of Congress's authority and a violation of the War Powers Clause. These violations resulted in the deaths of 13 service members and injuries of hundreds more.
That is what keeps a military in a democracy from becoming a political weapon. When personal loyalty replaces constitutional duty, that's an issue, one in which countless Democratic lawmakers have called to attention, and in response, Trump called them treasonous. So Watson's protest holds even more weight. Active duty service members, as you may understand, they operate under restrictions civilians do not, right? They can't engage in politics freely in the same way a private citizen can. They are subject to military discipline. They have to maintain the principle that the armed forces remain non-partisan. So when an active duty officer chooses to put all of that at risk and speak out publicly, he's risking his career, his standing, and his future. And while many in the MAGA contingent would call him a traitor, I think we could all argue that there is nothing more patriotic than standing up for what you believe.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.